Welcome to the Drivin Agricultural Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Jo Hollabaugh, professional breakaway roper and a member of the Ag Truck Trader Pro Rodeo team. Here at Drivin Agriculture, we are all things agriculture all the time, and our main priority is doing what's best in the ag space, talking trucks. So strap in and let's go roll some coal. Welcome back, everybody, to the Drivin Agricultural Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Jo Hollabaugh, and I am welcomed today by a couple of friendly faces we've seen very often, Miss Molly Ball with the National FFA and Miss Peyton Valentine with our Certified Ag Group. We call her one of our fierce leaders. Y'all, welcome back to the Drivin Ag. I feel we're talking about Molly. She's on her fall senior break right now with her daughter. Yep. We're welcoming in October. I mean, we're ready to kick off fall here at Drivin Ag.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Jordan. Excited to connect and talk some FFA today.
Peyton, tell us a little bit before we jump into FFA. What is going on with the Drivin Agricultural crew right now?
So we have been running like crazy. I think, as you know, our whole certified ag group this summer has just been absolutely insane. I think we added over 20 events to our calendar this summer. So been keeping the roads hot for sure. Between rodeos and farm shows, farm science review with our AgPack partner Village, just all of the things. But our next upcoming event is the National FFA Convention and the PRCA Rodeo that goes along hand in hand with that. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, and just super excited to be there. Most of our team internally, Jordan, is big advocates for FFA. Our fierce leaders, as you like to call them, Pat and Lyle, are huge into FFA, have lots of roots and history with the organization. National presidents. Lyle is a big contributor and big supporter of FFA. Personally, I was even the chapter president for our local chapter. So just a cause and organization that is very near and dear to all of our hearts. Honestly, I even thought about wearing my blues and my jacket today for the interview, but thought that might be a little over the top. But no, we're really excited about
old
this.
School.
Yeah.
Well, and Miss Molly, I want to welcome you to the show. Like Peyton said, huge ambassadors for FFA and all the things that we can possibly do. You guys, are just part of the foundation that builds Certified Ag and the Certified Ag team. And so Lyle especially is partial to FFA, and so are we. So now we're all blue. I have blue on my cap here if you can't see.
I love it.
But Molly, you've been a huge part of FFA. You're the president. You've been the chief marketing officer since 2013. So you have seen a lot of evolution here and been a huge part of the foundation of FFA. What does it mean to you to represent everything that you stand for?
Yeah, it's really cool. And first, let me give a shout out to Lyle and Pat. A little tidbit of fact: Pat was one of my first bosses. I interned for him at the Michigan Ag Radio Network. And when I had to figure out how to read hog futures, I was like, I think I'm done in radio. This is, he was like, so anyway, no, we're really excited to usher in another year, 98th convention, a couple more years to the 100th convention, which is in 2007. Really excited about bringing in all these students from around the country and our speakers and, the students who are going to compete. We have over 5,000 American degree recipients this year, which is a record breaker. So that means we'll have 5,000 plus students walk across the stage on Saturday morning. And so, of course, in our expo, where Peyton and her colleagues will be setting up there to interact with students to show them about the careers in agriculture, but also what they can see in terms of getting involved in the future of agriculture and food. It's a great opportunity for students to kind of see technology, cutting edge work with, tractors and seed companies and that sort of thing. It's really, really incredible.
Yeah, and it is. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about is as I sit here and I look at all of these stats and numbers of the National FFA Foundation. There's over 1 million members. There's over close to 9,500 local chapters, one in every state in the U.S., the Virgin Islands, all the places. Puerto Rico has local chapters. How sweet is that? And so just to know that it's everywhere and it's not going anywhere anytime fast. What in your opinion drives the growth to continue to make this impact in FFA?
Well, I think more and more students want a place, what we call is to belong. They want to find a place where they can find a home, and that's what FFA is. No matter if you're participating in a contest or you're just working in the greenhouse, you find friends, you find a passion for agriculture and food, and hopefully a lot of these kids will come out and find careers. I mean, we've got a lot of careers we've got to fill. We have to feed 9 billion people in 2050, and hopefully one of these kids sees something at the National Convention or in their local community that makes them the next Norman Borlaug, who can feed more people in the future through technology. So we're just hoping that we can feed that pipeline. We're they're 9th through 12th grade. We can feed that pipeline into the ag and food industry, and so maybe the National Convention will do that, but really where it all happens is at the 9,500 chapters locally with those ag teachers to ensure that students are getting a well-rounded experience and truly understand where their food comes from. So while we're growing over 1 million students, 9,500 chapters, we still have an opportunity to get more students involved in agricultural education, because that's really where the heart of the growth of FFA is.
Well, and to tag on to that, not to interrupt you, Jordan, sorry, but to tag on to that, Molly, as a kid who grew up in FFA and the ag classes with the great advisors and all of the things, I think FFA is just such a valuable organization because of the skills that it teaches the kids. And it's such a diverse range, from anything from learning about the animals that you're showing to learning about the food and the nutrition and the conformation, to welding. Those are trade skills that they're going to take out into the world and, like you said, build into a career. Personally, even in my career, some of I thinking back in my radio competitions and some of the public speaking stuff that I did, in FFA, it's like, oh, I wouldn't be able to be sitting on this podcast today, being comfortable talking to you lovely ladies, had I not had that foundation with FFA and the skills that taught me. So like I said, it's just incredible. And it's shaping these students and these young people into valuable adults that are going to be contributing into the workforce. And they truly are, it's the future farmers, but it truly is the future.
Well, and too, Peyton, like as you're talking, it is the future, but that's another program. Women Growing Women is a huge program and initiative in FFA, and that's what I was going to throw to Molly. Is just like Peyton. I mean, living, breathing proof that FFA changes lives, makes a difference, impacts the students that come, across it at any form or fashion, whether it's for the food, for the farming, for the animals, like no matter which part of FFA, it impacts it. So tell me a little bit about the passion behind Women Growing Women and how that's really, what your guys' thoughts are on how you get women into these roles in leadership.
Women Growing Women, it was called something different years ago, but it was just a fund where we would have leaders in industry give to a certain fund. And what we would do is give those dollars to teachers to do some professional development, or they would go, abroad or something like that each year. Now it's grown into webinars and really opportunities for young women to learn more from mentors across the industry. So we do 4 webinars a year, and it's, around showing up, professional development, networking, that sort of thing. And so we have young FFA members join the calls, and hopefully they can connect with a mentor that way. But we have a lot of young women who have leadership roles in FFA, and but there's still kind of a gap there with young men in the chapter level and young women. But in terms of leadership in large agricultural organizations, you still see a huge gap there. And I think I always say it's just hard. I don't think it's hard, but I think women have this huge balancing act that they have to achieve. And so they look at some of those roles and say, can I do that and have a family and meet all the demands I have at home as well? And so I think they just don't go for it. They don't go for the opportunities because they just don't know if they can balance all that. And, and I think it just takes really good mentors out there, that have had some of those roles and can really support those not even young women, just women in general, in really achieving those significant roles within companies. So I really hope in the future we'll see a little bit more change in that. But I still look around boardrooms. I'm in boardrooms all the time with leaders from the industry, and there's still some gap there. But I know that it's gonna have a sea change in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Planting those seeds. And Peyton, do you want to expand a little bit on that, on how FFA really impacted you as a woman in the industry to give you that confidence, to give you that surety, to knowing the balancing, like your husband and yourself, you guys, you're a family and all the things to come. And so talk about how that had an impact on you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it just builds the foundation. It gives you like you said, the confidence going into it, because the skills that it teaches you, and with the advisors that you have being such a cheerleader in your corner and truly being there to support you, they are building that faith in yourself. It's building that confidence. So then, whenever you do get out into the real world and you reach these challenges or these struggles that come along with agriculture, praying for the rain that might not ever come, dealing with sick horses and taking cattle, whatever it is that you're struggling with in the industries, because it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. It gives you the confidence to know that you're going to be able to overcome those things. And I think that's kind of the foundation that you get with FFA and all of the programs that they offer you. And especially being a woman in agriculture, you do have those hurdles. And sometimes I think people, not everybody, but I think some people have the tendency to underestimate women. Mm-hmm. And so being able to go back to those roots and knowing, maybe you kicked butt in some of the competitions, or you were, you won showmanship in your class or whatever it is, you can kind of reflect on those things and be like, I did this, I've got the confidence in myself, I can do this too. And I think you just kind of carry that forward, and it helps you build that foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I was just thinking about, I was on Kirby Schnorr's Farm Her podcast this week. Anyway, she has featured some really incredible women on farms and ranches across the country. And, you didn't see that 30 years ago, where the women of that farm or ranch was truly intimately involved in every single aspect. They had different roles. And now that social media has really lifted that up, you see some of these incredible women. I was just watching one where she was a rancher, and she spent a week in her truck because she didn't want the calves to be delivered in the sub-zero temperatures. She wanted to be there as soon as they were calved so that she could take care of them. I mean, who else does that? I just think that it's incredible. And we should be highlighting some of these women that are ranchers and farmers across the country, because they're just insanely talented people.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, years ago, it was the women were there, they were operating, but it was more behind the scenes rather than kind of in your face, more how it is now. But, if something happens, my husband travels a lot for work. And so I find myself here at the ranch. And if something happens, I can take my skills that I learned in my ag classes and in my FFA chapters. And if I need to go weld something up, I can do that. If I need to go fix a fence, or if I need to take my ag wagon out in the pasture and help pull calves or whatever it might be, I can do that. I have those skills. And so it's nice to be able to know that you can do anything just as good.
Yeah, 100%. Well, in those skill sets too, like the more I learn, I wasn't personally involved with FFA. I feel like obviously I am now. You guys
you're an honorary member, Jordan Jo.
An honorary blue jacket, please. I'll wear a medium. But it's just the fact of like the mentorship and the leaders really stick with me. Like every story I hear is like somebody believed in a child, or somebody believed in the youth, somebody believed in you, right? And gave you that. And so that's one of the things I think is so cool about FFA is it's, and then once you graduate out of high school and you go back, it seems like those who were involved in FFA, they come right back and they're then giving back. And so that's what I love about it. You're reaping and you're sowing and you're planting those seeds, and it's just a continual harvest. No pun intended, but kind of, but talk a little bit about Molly to that fact of there's over 100 scholarship and travel grants to support all the members. that
Mhm.
across the country for these
Yep.
FFA kids. And
Mhm.
you guys are really intentional about it doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is. If you want to be a part of FFA, you will try your best to make that happen.
Mhm.
Expand a
Mhm.
little bit more on that.
Yeah, no matter what, again, if you come from the city and have no ag background and want to experience this and just have a very supportive environment around you, FFA is for you. Agricultural education is for you. I look at teachers and they don't turn any students away, no matter, where they come from or, um, you know, what kind of skills they bring to the classroom. They don't turn anyone away, and so I think that's the incredible voice of the FFA. And we get letters all the time, which is so awesome, about how students didn't have a place and they found
Mhm.
agricultural education some way through a class, and then they found FFA, and the parents will write us and say, I didn't know it was going to happen to my kid, and now they have a future, and it's
Cool.
because of FFA, but really it's because of that teacher.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that is, like I said, the stories I've heard, it's the teachers and then it's the kids that were, their lives were changed by those teachers that then come back and are involved in FFA to then
Mhm.
hopefully change somebody else's life. So I just think that that's such a surreal full circle moment there for FFA to highlight. But we're evolving, we're getting ready. This is going to be a huge impact on the community during this FFA convention, the 98th convention, but there's also a lot of new things coming around. I mean, we've got a lot of new technology that's,
Mhm.
coming to the forefront. We've got, a bunch of kids that are going to be there. Like you said, certified ag is going to be there. There's going to be so many people within the industry. What are you most looking forward to for this 98th FFA convention?
Well, I always say it's the only place that you will find all of the commons of agriculture. You have every competitor of steel there, so John Deere and Case and others, and then you have all the seed companies and all the animal health companies, and they're all competitors, but they're there for one reason, and they're there to talk to students from across the country. And so I always look forward to the expo because I see a ton of old friends, and it's packed. Like, you go in there certain times of the day you can't walk through,
That's cool.
which is so awesome. And I always love. I found this TikTok of an ag teacher. He's in Midway, Texas, and he just had a TikTok out about first time teachers going to their first convention on the floor of the arena as soon as it starts. And it's like, it brings me to tears every year because you have 25,000 kids all saying the Pledge of Allegiance together.
Mm,
And it's just a surreal experience that we can bring that many kids together to listen and to practice leadership and brotherhood. And they're just really wonderful, amazing kids, in a city that we get feedback all the time from people in Indianapolis who are like, these kids are incredible. We love them every year. We love to see the Blue Jackets downtown Indianapolis. They don't make a peep. They don't run around. They're very kind. They're very courteous. So thank you for continuing to bring them to Indianapolis.
that's awesome. I love to hear that. Peyton, do you have any final thoughts before? I know you guys are going to be there. We're going to have the ag wagon there, all things certified ag group. What are you most looking forward to?
We are. So we're very excited. This year's going to look a little different for us. We are actually sharing a booth with PRCA. So we are kind of combining efforts. We will have that beautiful Pro Rodeo Special Edition Ag Wagon on display. Kids can climb in, check it out. We're going to be doing some freebies. We've got some giveaways that we're doing with one of our Ag Pack partners with Van Air. They've been generous enough to give some jump packs and some welders. We're going to have like a Plinko board. So just a lot of fun things going on. But personally, what I'm the most excited about is engaging the kids. We're actually, give a little teaser here, Jordan, going to be doing a second follow-up episode to this podcast, and that we will actually be recording live on the spot at the National FFA Convention and interviewing some of the students. And the thing I'm most looking forward to is talking with these kids because, as we all know, ag kids are just built differently. And I have taken these trucks to, like I said, over 25 shows this summer and have been engaging farmers and ranchers and cowboys and cowgirls and rodeo people. But sometimes those kids also get underestimated a little bit. And the reality of it is they're just as much of agricultural operations as their parents are. I was young and learning how to hook up a trailer before I ever had a
Mhm.
driver's license, that's for sure.
Mhm.
A lot of kids are out there driving tractors and combines and, working in the fields. And so they are a true part of the operation, and they have a greater understanding that a lot of people kind of discount. So I'm really looking forward to talking to these kids and letting them check out the Ag Wagon, the first purpose-built farm and ranch truck that was actually designed by farmers and ranchers, and getting their input. How would they see this truck being used on their farm and ranch? And I think that's going to be really exciting to hear their answers, and maybe a little bit different take than what adults sometimes have.
Well, and one thing that I can take away from this, I won't be there, sadly. I'm sad I can't be there, but this is the way I know you're an FFA student. Obviously, you're involved in agriculture, but you can tell an FFA kid by the way they shake your hand, 100%,
Right.
Mhm.
all the way.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they're going to look you in the eye, they're going to shake their hand, they're going to introduce themselves, and I think that's so cool about FFA. So, I'm more than excited. I can't wait to hear all of the great input that these kids have and how they're going to imagine using that ag wagon. Probably going to have some promo things for Pat. And then, of course,
Oh, yeah.
Molly, I mean, any kind of dirt you want to give us on
I
Pat
know.
Driscoll, our
And
first
Lyle.
leader,
Lyle's
and
been a huge
Lyle, I mean,
support of us
is
for
more than
years.
welcomed,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And Jordan Jo, if you can't come this year, next year, we have an open invitation. I'd love to get more podcasters to the convention and just, have their podcast so that you can interview students while
Yeah.
you're there for a couple days. I think it would be really awesome, to have a few podcasters right there. We have NAFB, the radio guys and gals that come, but would love to have podcasters at the convention so they can produce live there.
Well, we'll put it down on our calendars, but this year Peyton will be my
Yep.
substitute of the Drivin Agricultural
I'll be
podcast.
there. Pat will be
She
there.
will be there
Lyle, we'll have the whole team.
podcasting, asking questions, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Molly Ball, thank you so much for
Thank
taking your
you.
time today. Peyton, always great to talk to you. And
Thanks, Jill.
you're here listening to it on the Drivin Agricultural podcast, and we will catch you down the road.